Our next speaker is going to be Richard Graham. He's an experienced attorney from Lewis County. He's knowledgeable concerning many aspects of pilot agreements, practicing law since 1982. He has been focusing on representing municipalities for 15 years. So I give you Richard Graham for his talk on pilot programs. Richard?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm the county attorney in Lewis County. I was also the town attorney for the town of Lowville, and a portion of the Maple Ridge Wind Project is located in the town of Lowville. So I was there at the very beginning of the Maple Ridge Project. It's slightly different than some of the other projects around the state because we were the first project, I think, in New York State, but we were able to get the Maple Ridge Project into the Empire Zone. And the reason that makes such a big difference is that under the Empire Zone program, a developer receives 100% reimbursement on their real property taxes for the first 10 years, and then it declines over the next 5 years. But what that means to the local municipalities is that because they were receiving 100% reimbursement, we were able to negotiate a much higher payment, almost to the full value of the wind turbines for the first portion of the project. So we're receiving somewhere around $8 million a year total in revenues out of the Maple Ridge Project every year, and that's divided amongst, we've got 7 jurisdictions involved. We have 3 school districts, 4 townships, and of course the county. So it would be unfair to compare what we've done with Maple Ridge in terms of revenues with what you might experience here. But on the other hand, we also have another project that's coming up, the Roaring Brook Project, that is not in the Empire Zone. You can't put a wind project in the Empire Zone. The state allowed us to do it. We had a lot of backing in Albany to get it done when that project was done. But that once the state saw the numbers involved, that support sort of evaporated in a heartbeat. And so all the other wind projects, unfortunately, have to go a different route. But outside of the Empire Zone, there's basically 2 different methodologies or mechanisms, if you will, for pilot. One is through the real property tax law under 487 of the real property tax law. It provides that wind projects and solar projects are tax exempt and allows for local municipalities to negotiate a pilot agreement for payments in lieu of those taxes. If you go that route, basically you're limited to a 15-year agreement. The other alternative is to go through an IDA, where the IDA gets involved, and because of the IDA's involvement, they receive the tax exemption. With an IDA agreement, you can go out to 20 years or even 25 years. And there's some other benefits to a developer by going through the IDA, because there's also sales tax exemption and mortgage tax exemptions available to them, and that can make a big difference on the cost of the project. So those are the 2 alternatives. What we've seen around the state, at least from the research that I've done, typically in today's environment, the price, the way the tax payments are measured is on per megawatt basis, and the megawatt is what they call the faceplate capacity of the wind turbines. In other words, each turbine has that's the measuring mark for how much the turbine can produce in terms of power. And so the typical measurement is so many dollars per megawatt. I guess around the state, the average right now is somewhere between $8,000 and $8,500 per megawatt for a wind turbine. I've also noticed, and just looking at what Mr. Knob just mentioned about how they split their payments. Every community is different. In our community, we did a separate agreement amongst the taxing jurisdictions for the Maple Ridge Project, where we base it on, we fix the sharing percentage based on a certain year's tax rates. So it was a fixed ratio for the entire term of the pilot. Now, other communities, they do it just based on the relative tax rate. So if your school tax rate goes up a given year, they would end up getting a bigger slice out of the revenues than the town or the county. That's one way to do it. You heard his Mr. Knob's explanation how they did it in the town of Sheldon, which is an entirely different formula. I think the bottom line is that these pilot agreements and is basically what you can negotiate. And I can say for what's happened in Lewis County, when the Maple Ridge project was first proposed, we put all of the town supervisors for the affected towns, the school superintendents, and a couple of county legislators together in the same room, and we started to hammer things out early on. And I think that was in my view, that's one of the successes of the Maple Ridge project, is that we had almost total consensus amongst the municipal leadership in terms of how the project was going to come along. There were a lot of bumps in the road. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of time spent in these meetings. But at the end of the day, we felt that it was important for us as a community to have a unified voice. Now, I also recognize that Lewis County is a little bit unique in the sense that there was virtually no opposition to the Maple Ridge project, it started out at the initial proposal was some 67 turbines, then it went up to 86, and then finally we're at 195. And we've got this second project coming on, which is going to be another 39 wind turbines. So we'll have 235 turbines scattered across the Tug Hill Plateau here in the very near future.